Joe Cronin Show presents. Joe Cronin Show presents a show with beyond the matches, behind the storylines, state of the WWE.
Welcome into State of the WWE and a new format, a new looking show right now for you because, I'll be honest, my computer upstairs is completely filled. The hard drive is maxed out, so now we come downstairs to the basement in front of the green screen, in front of all you guys. I don't have a good microphone with me because I couldn't unhook all the equipment. Sorry about that, and I have no money to buy a hard drive, but this laptop is filled with room. So here we go. We're going to do it this way on the laptop live. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I just turn on the thing, and here we go. We're going to talk about it. The first thing, obviously, on the table is Daniel Bryan and the whole blading situation. I really don't want to call it that too much. I want to be careful because I don't want it to become a thing where then WWE never does this again or is worried about it even more than they already are. So I just want to talk about, the idea of it and whether stuff is real or fake or what's going on. The first thing that I noticed when watching Wade Barrett, first of all, talk about the Wade Barrett segment altogether with Daniel Bryan and everything else that went on in that SmackDown event. I thought the Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus rivalry match, whatever you want to call it, was awesome. It was friggin' awesome. I enjoyed what they did in the match. There was some sort of controversy about Sheamus working too hard on Bryan or something. I mean, I think that was the point. I think that's all work. I think a lot of that controversy is a work, to be honest, because I don't see why anybody would be upset about that. But also I noticed that right before Daniel Bryan gets cut, first of all, he's not bleeding at all previous. Usually, you sort of start to see some red before they bleed, because the whole point is you jab yourself, and then you do another spot, and then by the time the event happens, you get hit in the head, you're bleeding, and it looks great. But I noticed that Sheamus dove at Daniel Bryan to knock him off the apron. And when he did that, he hit him in the face with his hand. And he may have actually sliced his head open with his fingernails or something. The only thing that's interesting about that is they kind of played up on it. On SmackDown. I mean, Daniel Bryan gets up, he's all dazed. But if he wasn't going to bleed, that kind of is what they were going to do anyway, because because Wade Barrett was going to waffle him with the bullhammer anyway, and he was supposed to look all dazed and get tooled. By the way, that spot was awesome. They got heat on Barrett. I got pissed off at Barrett. I got pissed off at Sheamus, and I love Wade Barrett. But it was just great, and what Barrett said on the microphone was great as well. It's actually turning out to be, I started to think when I saw this happen, man, this is the most heat and most I can ever remember an Intercontinental title grudge going on here, like between Wade Barrett and Daniel Bryan in a long time. I can't remember. I mean, they've done a lot of stuff recently kind of with the Intercontinental belt and brought it back and everything, but this was the first time I felt like there was an actual kind of rivalry or competitive nature towards the IC championship in the way that Wade Barrett treats Daniel Bryan and the way Sheamus is attacking him. It just felt legitimate again. It felt like a real battle for this Intercontinental title. It felt like there's something on the line. And it hasn't felt that way in a while. So, that being said, I think that's good, and that's good things. And this is another situation, whether it was a blade, whether it was an accident, whatever, where blood actually added to the match. It made Bryan look weak, strong. It didn't make him look weak, didn't make him look strong. It made Daniel Bryan look like he was under duress, being attacked. Everyone wants this title. The odds are against him. He's beaten up, he's bleeding, and now he gets a bullhammer to the head. I mean, it was well done, and I think probably one of the best moments on on SmackDown from the other night. AKN 295, we're doing State of the WWE episode number 36 live with you guys. I think this is maybe the first or second time I've ever done State of the WWE live and by myself. I don't think I usually do it by myself, but Chris Tosevich only has Mondays and Tuesdays off, so he still cannot join me on the weekends. I did reach out to Dave, and Dave didn't want a part of this, didn't want a part of the ball. I did ask him, I said, hey, let's do something. Can we just get over this and you can be you're still on the show. It's not a big deal. I freaked out and we'll take care of it. But he said he didn't want to do it. And he said I don't think Dave's coming back. Because basically, I freaked out. He was an ass. I mean, I thought he was kind of treating me kind of like an asshole. And then I said, it's all my fault, basically. Let's just get back and do it. It's all my fault. I screwed up. I freaked out. Let's go ahead and get back and do it. Even if Tosevich comes back, you're still part of the show. Let's do this. And he didn't really want any part of that. So, that's fine. I do the show by myself. Monetize this. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I haven't really talked to Tommy C. He seems to be avoiding me too. So, Tommy C. avoiding me. Dead wrong Dave avoiding me. That's right, Dave. You're dead wrong, Dave. Anyway, moving on from that. Yeah, fuck it, I'll do it live. I'm glad you guys are here watching the show. I'm glad we're doing State of the WWE impromptu out of nowhere live. I think that's kind of interesting. I don't know how good it's going to be tonight because I can't, think of it. So I'm going to also rely on you guys to be more part of the show. The reason why I started the show was to take phone calls from you and react to your phone calls while giving my opinion. So right now we're doing State of the WWE. I'm going to react to your comments in the chat, and we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. Wrestling, Brock Lesnar, you name it, we'll talk about it. It's very insightful to listen to comments like Jim Cornette makes about Brock Lesnar, not wanting this, just all in it for the money, and it's a clear deal that Brock Lesnar is all in it for the money and flexes his muscles. Oh, I'm Brock Lesnar, and then he flexes his muscles. That's what he does. Give me a paycheck. I want to go shoot some animals. That's what Jim Cornette says about Brock Lesnar, the former WWE champion. And it's very interesting. He has some very bitter, very angry comments for Brock Lesnar in many of his podcasts that he does when he talks about him. I think he respects him, he says, but he actually mentions he would shoot him at one point because Brock Lesnar threatened Jim Cornette's wife or told her to fuck herself or something like that. And so that was a problem. And Jim Cornette said, someone will shoot you. And he's right, because who's going to fight Brock Lesnar? That was a little crazy. If you go listen to Jim Cornette any interviews with him, is just hilarious. It's a lot of fun. I also just watched Mankind's first debut match with Bob Sparkplug Holly, and man, I remember when he debuted, it was great. Wrestling then reminds me of exactly what it's like now, although it's kind of a mix of all the generations kind of mixed into one right now. Like if you were to ask me like what's wrestling like now as opposed to when you were a kid, well, that's a hard question, because until I was 8 years old, or until I was 8 years old, we had the Hulk Hogan era, which was like Super Cena era, basically. Every year Hogan fights another bad guy. Yay, it's wrestling. And that's what it was. It was all a big red, white, and blue PG Rocky type of movie until WrestleMania 9. And I think around WrestleMania 9, it kind of changed a little bit. Even though they did have Hogan winning, it was kind of... I think I might have fixed it. There we go. Fights another bad guy. Yay, it's wrestling. And that's what it was. It was all a big red, white, and blue PG. It's a problem. I don't know where I drowned it off, where we got lost to change. Then 13, really heard it from the fans and changing. Done. The WrestleMania 14 Attitude Era's in full swing. There we go. And so I would say to you guys that nowadays, I thought this thing would go smooth. Apparently the basement don't work too well. It did before. Problems the other days, but I think it's got something to do with the wind. I think it's got something to do with the wind, the cold, the fact that I maybe didn't pay the cable bill. That could be it. I could be picking up the neighbor's internet right now. I think I usually get shut off today. So sorry about that. I don't know. Friggin' poor. I don't know what to tell you. I don't even have my microphone down here. I know that. I don't even know how the mic sounds, but I didn't test this at all. Honest, but with Daniel Bryan, with the Wade Barrett, with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, that match wouldn't have been that good without the blood. That blood needed to happen. That was a pivotal moment And while I do think the stupid man punch is dumb, it's a setup move. And I don't mind his setup move being the Superman punch. I mean, there's about it. The Roman Reigns, I mean, is a player and is the WWE champion. With the way with his entrance coming out, like with man punch and someone falling over, and then him spearing somebody. I mean, it looks awesome. I have to admit it. I mean, it looks awesome though. At the same time, I understand how. I mean, this is little kids are gonna latch onto that thing like you wouldn't believe. Even the grown adults. I mean, when he socked Brock Lesnar the second time, Brock Lesnar sold the crap out of that thing like he was really sucker punched by a Brock Lesnar's match. It was really good, and it's one of those main events that I'm gonna remember to go back and watch. There's been a few in the past. I don't know. Yet this Brock Lesnar Roman. I mean, not just because of Seth Rollins cashing in either, but I mean the whole thing. I mean, Cena was wrestling against Triple H, and I didn't like Cena, and I wanted Triple H to win a too. Even though I was mad, get that the crowd reacted, seeing Triple H, wanting him to win. It's one of these things you never forget when your favorite guy wins, but you also never forget when you really want something to go your way and you get crushed and you lose. When your guy loses, or when your sports team loses. I'm in Boston, so I'll put the Boston Red Sox up for you. I mean, I'll never forget all the times I'll never forget 2003 when the Yankees beat them in Game 7. I was crushed. I was furious. It was one of the most awful things ever. And the next year we came back from a 3-0 deficit in the playoffs to beat the Yankees away. It was just ridiculous. So that was such a payoff after WrestleMania. Maybe if you're a Roman Reigns fan, you can't believe he lost all this buildup and you like him. He lost. It's the same thing kind of that happened with Bryan for Bryan's fans. You just don't remember. You don't forget Sheamus beating the crap out of Higgins. You don't forget. You're not going to forget Roman Reigns getting screwed and because of Seth Rollins in the bank. I'll man winning the Royal Rumble and being infuriated. I mean, like, I was actually enraged by that. Like, I was off. That Vince so mad. It was me, Austin. It was me all along. It was me. Going in your streak to Brock. I also want to say thank you very much to Mick Foley for making that video. We got the way to make it seem kind of cool. To leave Roman Reigns alone. It was just funny that in the video I didn't expect him to. He just brought up Roman Reigns on his own out of nowhere, which leads me to believe he's seen some of the videos. But yeah, we have given Roman Reigns a hard time. Roman Reigns the person a hard time. Roman Reigns seems like a good. Of course he does. Come on, Mick, what are you doing? But the problem is he's shoved down our throats, and H and all them can come on and say, oh, you think or he didn't deserve it, or he didn't work hard, or something like that. He's worked harder than blah 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 blah. I'm supposed to know this, by the way. And most fans perceive him as an entitled hand-me-down that he was given this, and he was. So, and if you want to hear me prove it more to you, CM Punk picked out 3 wrestlers he wanted to come up from the WWE. WWE took one of those guys and said, no, how about Roman Reigns there? And so then CM Punk ended up agreeing to that, right? He said, oh, all right, that sounds good. So, since the beginning, he's had a push since it started. Now, he may deserve that push, and we don't know it. That's entirely possible. But how we perceive it is Daniel Bryan was pushed out the door. Roman Reigns was pushed into the door, into the spotlight. It's the same reason I believe Silent Rage won Tough Enough a few years back. Who did Silent Rage kind of look like the big Anybody who looks like Test. Anybody who looks like Diesel. Anybody who looks tall and big, kind of good looking. You're going to put them on there, aren't you? You don't care. Punch, stupid man, punch, boot to the face. Roman Reigns is Diesel. And you know something? Never liked Diesel. I never did. Michaels, I loved when Diesel was his bodyguard. I enjoyed some of the stuff Shawn and Diesel did. And in fact, at WrestleMania 11, the worst paper WrestleMania ever, I think, Shawn Michaels and Diesel had a pretty good match. I really enjoyed their match, especially with all those photographers getting crushed all the time. And so that being said, that's how I feel, and that's how a lot of people feel, and we can't help it. By the way, some little smart-ass 16-year-old, I don't know how old he is, he was like, dude, let me get this straight. He mentioned it because WrestlingInc.com picked up our Mick Foley video, and there's a news blast about him. So all these people are coming to the video that don't know about me. And first they're like, oh, you got plates in the background. And then for a guy over 16 to be watching wrestling, you're a loser. For a guy over 16 to watch wrestling, I'm a loser? Let me ask you something, bro. The wrestlers are fucking over 30 years old, most of them. Okay? They're actually wrestling. So, is that some kind of problem? And then you could say, well, Joe, yeah, who cares? Pee Wee Herman was like 30 years old doing a kid show. Doesn't mean old people watch it. Well, yes, it does. Wrestling is for everyone, you dumbass. Because most people, by the time they're before 16 years old, don't even know what the fuck wrestling is. They're just stupid kids watching. You know, really, you need to grow up, you little prick. And you're just a noob. You've been watching wrestling probably like a year. A couple years ago, you were peeing your pants. You don't know anything about wrestling. And in fact, if everybody over 16 stopped watching wrestling, there would be no wrestling, you stupid moron. And if all the people that I watched when I was your age weren't, you wouldn't be watching wrestling now either, stupid moron. But that's how this generation of kids are. You know, they're a bunch of little cocksuckers, and that's the bottom line, because I said so. They're a bunch of entitled little morons raised in a of give me, I want, give me, give me, give me. And they don't do a thing. See, the bottom line is, when I was a kid, there was a bunch of little smartasses too. However, when I was 14 and 13, I don't want to go into the old guy mode, the old people, you know, when I was your age, respected adults, we respected her. Who gives a shit? The bottom line is, when I was 14, a lot of people didn't respect people older, and they probably said the same smartass things that you're saying. But the thing is, I never did. I never did that. Even when I was a kid, I had friends who used to walk into traffic who were like 13, 14. They just walked out there. I'd be like, oh shit, dude, cars are coming. And they'd be like, who gives a shit? Punk asses. And these were my friends at 14, 15, 13 years old. I never did that, though. I never would. I'm not going to walk in front of a car, piss the guy off, and killed, because I wasn't a moron. But there's a lot of moronic kids out there, and it looks like we found another one. And, you know, most of that goes into, you know, being touched by your Uncle Jim, all right? Sorry that you feel that way, bro. Sorry that you're closed-minded. And in 2 years, you know what? You probably won't like wrestling. You'll like something else. You'll probably like the Backstreet Boys. And you'll put videos onto the Backstreet Boys and diddle yourself to Sesame Street. I don't know. But anyway, moving on from that. Brock Lesnar is going to appear again. A lot of people saying SummerSlam seems because, hey, Brock signed a deal for 6 or 10 appearances or something like that, and we got to get him off TV. I do find it hard to believe that we're not going to see him the rest of April, the rest of May, the rest of June, the rest of July, and it's going to be 5 months Slam that we see Brock Lesnar. I do find it hard to believe that he won't show up at some point for something. But that's seems to be what's floating around out there. Unbelievable. Also, Stone Cold Steve Austin's podcast on the network. That thing was amazing. It was great. Stone Cold was asking hard questions. It was phenomenal. Both his interviews, especially the Triple H one, were just freaking unbelievable. And they stirred the pot. And maybe that's a problem. Maybe Stone Cold stirring the pot is a problem because now he's got some kind of issue with McMahon again, and there's some kind of falling out. He didn't come to WrestleMania. And now Y2J, Chris Jericho, is taking the cast. Listen, I do respect Chris Jericho. I've always been excited when he returns, and I've always loved him. In fact, I couldn't dreaming of the day that Chris Jericho would leap from WCW to go to WWE. I was one of those people dreaming of that. Chris, if you're watching. But my God, his podcast versus Stone Cold is like drinking alcohol or drinking non-alcoholic alcohol. It's like drinking soda or prune juice. Stone Cold asked mostly the tough questions and stirred up some controversy in the meantime. China, Triple H, all the questions, all that stuff. You're going to go from a guy who's going to ask the questions he wants to ask, and that's because he said so. And now instead we're going to go into Mr. Cheeks, who's going to probably play 3,000 commercials before you go. Prove me wrong, because honestly, I think Stone Cold Steve Austin asking the damn questions. No, now we're going to get, why? The real that none of you really think about outside Raw when he comes back in wrestling. We're going to get sparkly white tooth Hollywood, Chris Jericho, asking the question no one wants to hear. Getting the answers no one believes. Because that's what this bullshit podcast is going to turn into. Chris Jericho smiling so much and face so far up of the guest that when he takes his face away, all you'll see is a big brown stain leaking down his face all over the floor, smear it all over his chest, and then he can go out with Fozzy. Yeah! Chris Jericho! Yeah! Well, Jericho, I'm not buying your bullshit Hollywood story. Your podcast should be called Chris Jericho's Hollywood Crap. And listen, I love Jericho. Or at least I did. But when I listen to that podcast, I want to take a needle and stab myself in the throat. Prove me wrong, Jericho. Because I do love you, Jericho, and I do respect you. I'm some stupid loser in my basement right now on YouTube. That's what I'm thinking right now. You know, I think Stone Cold might think it's kind of funny what I'm doing. I think Stone Cold would be like, oh, this is a silly son of a bitch, you know, da-da-da. Jericho would say, he'd probably say, loser. What a look at this fat loser in his basement. Probably in his mother's basement. Yeah, typical Jericho, real good. Real bro. Why don't you dye your hair the same color as your pubes, f***ing fairy? I don't know why I'm going off on Jericho so much, because I really do love Jericho. I got his movies, I got his DVDs, I got his t-shirt. And, you know, Jericho, you ever want to call up and challenge me on this? I mean, go for it. You know, I'll do it off air, too, if you think I'm just sucking up to or something. I'll talk to you one-on-one on Skype if you want. Or wow, phone, I don't give a crap. I won't record it, I won't upload it. I just talk to you in general. I want Jericho's show to be better. I love Jericho. I want talk to be Jericho, not talk to Jericho! I don't want to... Whatever. We gotta move on. But anyway, my battery's running out on my laptop. The bandwidth looks like it's dying again, and I don't want to lose you guys. I'm only by myself. I don't have any notes. I don't have anything. I can't surf the web because I'm afraid of what the internet will do. I can't see your comments because of I not really knowing this was going to happen, and we're going to get such a bad connection. Can you do to help? Keep watching the breaks. Leave the thing on. Sit through the commercials. I get money. I can pay the bill. I can get a new computer. I can do all the things that we want to do. GoFundMe. I don't know. I got a GoFundMe set up, so go to that. JoeCroninShow.com. Go check it out. Thanks for watching. I hope if you're new to the channel, you subscribe and you smash that like button, and you go ahead and watch all my other videos. I have almost 1,000 videos. We're coming up on 1,000 videos on this channel, so go back and watch it all. Enjoy the history. All right, for the last 6 to 8 months, Dead on Dave's been my co-host. But for a year before that, Chris Tosevich was my co-host. Now Chris comes back to the show. Dead Wrong Dave leaves. And, listen, I tried to get him back. It's not happening. Oh, well. We'll see you later. So I subscribe to his channel, though. I don't have any hard feelings. You know, I'm probably going to talk a bunch of shit because I can't handle being rejected, and I don't know what's wrong with Tommy C either. Maybe he went to become a fucking... maybe he's working with North Korea now. I don't know. So leave below. Tell me what you think. Go. Live after Monday Night Raw. We'll be live to take your phone calls this week, as always, with the Chris Tosevich returning. I'm excited for that. And also, if you want to get a hold of me on Twitter, at Joe Cronin Show on Twitter. the viewer questions. Somebody else other than Tosevich on Mondays, I got to get some more content on here. So we're going to bring back viewer questions. So Joe Cronin Show at yahoo.com. Joe Cronin Show at yahoo.com. Send me your questions. I'm going to answer them. I'm going to read them. And we'll talk years old and a big washed up piece of crap. I don't care what you want to talk about. Hate me, love me. Don't forget that in the end, last laugh. So don't worry. Don't let it get you down. Thanks for being here, guys. Hey, you know what? Let's go. I'll keep going. What do you got? I'm going to go ahead and read. Jericho did it for the Elvis Winborn. Doc Holliday, he said, no Benoit, he can go fucking die. Well, Benoit's not going to make the Hall of Fame, dude. He murdered his family. Regardless of whether that was really Benoit or his brain from all the wrestling, I, in my mind, don't know. Based on what I've heard, it's the psychotic person who isn't there mentally. It's the act of somebody with a mission. Based on everything we know about Chris Benoit, it's the acts of a guy with a mental problem, something unstable, something snapped up there, and that's not Chris Benoit. A mental patient who's with it their whole life, killing people. That's what they were. Their brain has been messed up since they were born, and bad. But Chris Jericho wasn't that way, is he? And that's why I separate the two in a way, but we don't, so it's uncomfortable to talk about. So all you can do was a terrible tragedy. I feel uncomfortable saying Chris Benoit was an asshole, or Chris Benoit was a murderer. Because I don't know if that was him. It was his brain. It was his actions. But something wasn't right. It couldn't have been right. And we'll never know. So I don't want to talk about it any further. Yeah, Rick Rude should be in. Jesse will be back too. I don't know what he's doing. Chavo Guerrero in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, you can see Chavo Guerrero in the Hall of Fame. But, I would think you'd really see Ray in the Hall of Fame before him. But that being said, guys, Jake the Snake was put in the Hall of Fame last year, bro. Where the hell have you been? And on that note, guys, comment,